Across the world, on 3 continents, agricultural research and development scientists are focused on the year 2050. This is the year in which United Nations demographers have predicted that the world population will tick past 9.6 billion souls, with more than half that growth occurring in Africa. That's more human and livestock mouths to feed with less farmland, less water and less fertiliser in a system where in some regions farm productivity is in decline and greater resource inputs no longer produce increased outputs. Today at the Western Sydney University in Australia, the Chinese Academy of Sciences Research Centre for Eco-Environmental Sciences, the Chinese Academy's Institute of Urban Environment, the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences, and at India's Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, teams of specialists are collaboratively rising to the challenges of the future. Worldwide demand for food and fibre is growing. It is driven by population growth, changing diets, wealth, and the diversion of more food crops and land to biofuels. Climate variability and extreme weather are further impacting on farm productivity and food security. The Global Centre for Land-Based Innovation's mission at the Western Sydney University is to create and communicate innovative solutions to challenges around farm productivity, food security and environmental sustainability.
Corporations to work in a way, collaborative way, to increase the farm productivity, not just for today but also 5 years down and 10 years down. So how are we going to adapt to the climate change? How are we going to adapt to the resource constraint of the futures? That's the number one the goal of the centers. The second was that in working with our international partners and the policymakers, all level of governments from the states to federal to international governments, to promote the agribusiness and the trade between the partners. And the third is a pretty important one, is the capacity building, not only in terms of the research students and the research scientists, but also in terms of the informed growers, informed consultants and the policy makers, so that all we work together to enhance the farm productivity and profitability in Australia. The centre is now more than a year old, and in this time we have forged a multiple relationship with the different agriculture sectors partners, and we have a significant outputs from those activities.
Australia produces some of the finest quality cotton in the world. As climate change accelerates, this critical national industry is further at risk.
I'll just give you a couple of examples. The first, we're working with the cotton industry. We now developed a more informed decision on the damage of the climate change and extreme weather events on the cotton productivity. As we speak, we are preparing a report for the industries that what management tools should be employed to minimize the impact of extreme weathers and climate change impact on the cotton in the future. The second example is the working with the grain industries, is that how can we improve the soil carbon storage in the grain farms. As you know, the soil carbon is one of the key ingredients of the productivity of the farm. And again, we just reported a few days back to the GRDC, the Grain Research and Development Corporations, is that some management types, for example, the crop rotations, increase a particular type of carbon, what we call the labile carbon. And the labile carbons, in fact, what it does is increase the nutrient cycling in the farm, and as a result, you have a higher farm productivity. The third and the last example for today is that we're working with the Sugar Research Australia to find a causal agent of the yellow canopy syndrome. And as you know, the yellow canopy syndrome is now recognized as a serious productivity penalty on the farm productivity in the sugar canes. And so we're not working on finding the causal agents, but we are also working with them to find a management solutions that can minimize the impact on the farm productivity.
A major focus for the Global Centre for Land-Based Innovation has been identifying, researching and harnessing rhizosphere soil microbial interactions to boost farm productivity and the resilience of farming systems.
My area of expertise is the study of soils, but in particular I'm interested in how plants modify the soil environment and how those changes in the soil influence the growth of plants. So most of the work we do is in natural settings, for example in grasslands and also forests, but increasingly we're using that knowledge to understand how farming systems also operate, or to see if we can use that understanding to improve farming systems. Well, obviously I work in a different organisation, but I think what centres like the centre here can do is, as I said before, these are global challenges, so by definition you need to bring people together from across the world to be able to come up with new ways and ideas of actually solving those problems. But I think it's not just about scientists, it's also about bringing in stakeholders, farmers, people in industry, because one of the big challenges that we have is how we actually translate our scientific knowledge to actually mean something at a farm level, which I would say on the whole, soil scientists like myself don't generally do, but it's something that we need to do more to be able to make our science have real impact.
I was trained as a soil scientist, and my research is really concerned with the plant-soil microbe interactions with regards to nutrients and also pollutants in the environment. Well, in my institute, the overarching theme is urbanization. And as you know, urbanization is related to the demographical movement of people from the rural area to the urban centers. And to make sure that urbanization is sustainable, we have to get secure food supply, both in quantity and in quality. And in that case, food security is a major topic for my institute, also for the environmental sustainability. As an institute of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, first of all, we want to be more international, to reach out for our development and to have our impacts. So being a part of this global center, we can forge international networks of collaboration, for exchange of experience, and to share expertise in food security research.
Well, soils are literally fundamental to civilization because soil supports us in the sense of it's where we grow all our crops. So the majority of food we eat, with the exception of fish, will be coming from some sort of soil somewhere on the planet. Yes, so the centre is running a workshop with a number of Australian colleagues and international scientists in relation to managing the rhizosphere for soil health and production of crops. The rhizosphere is where plants connect to the soil, so it's this interface between plant roots and the soil itself. The grand challenge is managing our planet in a sustainable manner, and therefore we're going to be needing to connect the way that we are growing food in different countries together in a sense to make it more sustainable. So my relationship with the Global Centre is as I've collaborated over the years with Professor Braj Singh when he was in the UK, and as always in science, the relationships you develop early in your careers tend to prevail, and this means that we can then be moving around, bringing different perspectives as we do so, and workshops such as this, which bringing people who know each other together and then new colleagues mean that we get new and interesting insights.
My work is contributing to how the Global Centre is operating by trying to support the greater idea of how we can create new crops that have increased yield, have increased ability to fight off disease with less inputs. So specifically, my work is funded by the GRDC that is looking to identify specific genes that can be screened for in breeding populations of pulse crops to enable breeders to develop new crops that are very disease resistant but also benefit from the nutrients that are given to them by beneficial microbes.
In tropical North Queensland, a mysterious disease that causes sugar crop leaves to turn yellow is preventing the plants from growing and producing sucrose. It's now moving south.
So one of the goals of the Global Centre is to work with industries and to find ways to increase plant productivity and to contribute to food security. And so in our project, we're working with the sugarcane industry and trying to solve the mysterious yellow canopy syndrome that's causing significant yield losses at the moment in Australia. So it could be the case that an unknown biological agent is responsible for YCS, so we're investigating that. Another possibility is that beneficial microorganisms that live in the plants or in the leaf tissue, in the stalks or in the roots, that they got lost, and those beneficial organisms might have been involved in help the plant fight off a pathogen or in helping the plant access essential nutrients. And so they could be lost from the system, enabling a pathogen to attack.
So on our farm we're grass-fed beef producers, and we are seeing increasing challenges in how we manage our grass, in that the rainfall that we're receiving, while in some years we might be receiving our average rainfall, it's falling in a different sort of pattern. So we might have big falls of rain and then we have long periods of dry. So it's about how we manage that grass. In the last sort of maybe 4 or 5 years we're really seeing a different sort of climate pattern. And so it's about, you know, when we do get those heavy falls of rain, we need to be able to infiltrate that rain that might be falling really heavily. We need great soil structure and things to be able to infiltrate that rain, and then to be able to make the most of it, to have great water use efficiencies from the water that we do get. You know, the agricultural industry I think has got into a place where you know, there's a lot of advisors that people have on farm, but I think it's important for us as farmers to step aside from that, because maybe they don't own the long-term goals or values that we have on our farm, and unless we share those with those advisors, the recommendations that they might be making aren't necessarily best in line with our long-term interests. So while we rely on that advice, it's important to step aside and, you know, think about what we really want and the long-term outcomes for us as farmers.
That's all industry stakeholders are invited, just like Carolee, the farmers comes here and to tell us what they think is their real constraint and challenges, a limiting factor at this moment, and we will work with them to find the solutions, and that is in practice, and develop management tools and investment tools to increase productivity, profitability, but in an environmental sustainable way.